Okay, where's the pointer? So I will present to you our president, Archana Rapswani, double immigrant, stepping in Canada and then here in the US. Her training was in McGill University, and just to show you a little spoiled that how smart she is, she never went to undergrad. She got this special program just for smart people, I guess. They can go straight to an integrated program and in Canada to get her degree, and then her fellowship in Emory and some MBA at University of St. Thomas. So she has some appointments throughout her academic and professional life, a few years in Missouri, University of Missouri, and then University of Minnesota, and now to the West Coast, where she becomes full professor of surgery, already was there, and chief of surgery on VA Loma Linda. If you really scroll to her CV, and I got it, so it's several pages that you need to scroll over. Something that really shined to me was her commitment to education and research. So she has been appointed clerkship, residency, fellowship, always trying to boost surgical education, awareness on it, over 100 national and international presentations, and it's not hard to get a picture of her in the podium. You can really find those. Over 30 publications and education grants, just to show how of commitment she has towards education, and that's exactly what we're doing here on this meeting. Her better half, her partner in crime, Dr. Rumi Fazer, another accomplished vascular surgeon, and they were able to build a beautiful family with their twins, now 20 years old. And my question to her is, I have pictures of you from 20 plus years ago, and you look exactly the same. I don't know what is the trick, but you need to share this, right, Vedra? And she needs to share this with us, because those pictures, and you can see that her sons are 20 years old, and they are, for me, it doesn't look exactly the same. She said, oh, this is her 40th anniversary or birthday. This is 30th. It's all the same. It's hard to say just by the pictures. She has some special skills, and maybe we can challenge that. Now she, this mixologist, in the fancy word to make cocktails, and she really aced on this. And you can see on those pictures that she really put in practice her skills. And she kind of merged her passion for mixology and education, because she's now teaching her son how to become a proper mixologist. She's a straight vegetarian, and the ones that share with her meals, we all understand this. But I was told that if you really come with a good Wagyu beef, she might make a one-time exception. So maybe on our faculty dinner, if we can provide some very high-end Wagyu beef, maybe, Chen, maybe we can have a bite. She's really a sports fan, absolutely. And I learned that her inspiration to become a physician, her goal was to be a Team USA medic. So that's what drove her to even be a physician, is her sport passion. Being from Minnesota, Vikings fan, Missouri Tigers, and now with her son at Georgia Tech, she's trying to push for Georgia Tech sports. I tease her if she wants to sing, and I heard that don't try to sing around her if you're not really, really a professional, because she will not allow it. Doesn't happen in her OR. She has a very picky playlist. It's not no country music, I think, and you just need to be aware of this. And I realized what is the real reason that we are all in Chicago today. I mean, she's organizing a trip to the outlets because I thought that I was told that she's really the back rack professional pro. She's the one that can find a bargain. So I think Saturday after our business meeting, she might organize a trip to the Chicago Premium Outlets and just learn from her. But all jokes aside, for me, the word that summarize and forgive my words, but what inspired Archana, I rather ask you, name you Archana, Dr. Rameswamy is too complicated to me, is inspiration. I think you inspire the ones that are around you in so different levels, and that was clear to me when I started asking around some background information on her. So thank you for being this inspiration for all of us here in American Society, and I'll give you Dr. Rameswamy.
Well, thank you, Flavio, for that very kind introduction. And I knew when I tried that plank challenge blowing up a balloon that it would come back and bite me in the rear, and clearly it has. So thank you for that as well. And I did not pay retail for this dress, which should come as a surprise to nobody. So in preparing this talk, it involved a lot of procrastination, which probably doesn't come as a surprise to most of you who know me. But what I spent a lot of the time thinking about was really about all the addresses that I've listened to, that I've been at, and what has been the most inspiring to me and the most meaningful over the years. So that's is where I kind of came up with my talk title, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit more as we go through. And somehow this mouse is not working for me either. Oh, I should ignore the mouse. Very good. So the things that I have found the most inspiring have really been speakers who've talked about innovators, and we've obviously just heard about that recently from our two previous speakers, as well as those who've had some real personal journeys and in terms of how they've moved through those. And these are the two main themes that I find strike a chord with everyone, really. And so while I was thinking about this and doing a lot of stress eating as well, which is kind of what I do, and a lot of these have been journeys to discovery, as Yuri really kind of went through his journey there, and as well as those people who've kind of faced significant personal obstacles or discriminatory environments and how they overcame all of that. So first I said, okay, well, what about any innovations that I've been part of? So, well, the Ramaswamy maneuver, have you heard of it? Probably not, and that's probably a good thing. Because this was a small portion of a procedure that was named after me during residency. And so this actually involved high ligation of the IMA during low anterior resections. This was back in the old days when we did all these surgeries open, so very long ago, with immediate formation of a hematoma in the mesentery. So it was this really uncanny ability to hit a hidden vessel and to do it consistently. And to the extent that, the person who I'd work with would just stand there and go, I don't know what to do here. And it's just like, I'd like to teach you some way to avoid this, but I have no idea. She's like, this is a skill. So since then, I have not created any new procedures, so the innovation idea was, well, we had to move past that. Then in terms of the personal journey, well, as Flavia pointed out, I am an immigrant. And I would like to point out that it was not Team USA who I wanted to coach, since I did grow up in Montreal. It was our great Montreal Canadiens hockey team that I wanted season tickets to, and I figured the easiest way to do that was to become a sports medicine doctor. And I was not very smart in terms of my thought process. But the journey here was not really my immigrant journey. It was my parents' journey. And I grew up in a relatively insulated from all of that when we first moved to Canada. And it was the struggles of a young family, but again, they protected me to a large extent and slowly moved us up into a middle-class existence, and that's what I grew up in, and did not really deal with very much. And it was really their hard work and determination, which I'm sure, of course, affected how I approached life. And, a 95% was never good enough in school. How did you miss the last 5% there? I definitely did learn a lot of lessons from my parents, as well as my patients, of course, and mostly a lot of it about being frugal, as has been brought up already. I always look for a sale, whether it's like tomatoes or toilet paper or clothes, which I do like. I don't think that I've managed to pass this on to my progeny. And those of you who happen to know my son, who is here, you can attest to that. I have not passed it on. Racism and sexism are prevalent, and I know many people have dealt with struggles throughout their career. I really don't think that these have a significant impact on my life or my career. To a large extent, maybe that I've been oblivious to parts of it, but regardless, I didn't feel like that was something that I could really talk about either. So then this is where I came up with the whole idea of let's talk about good enough and what that is and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. So if we start with what is the definition of the word good, right? So the Cambridge Dictionary says that it's satisfactory, enjoyable, pleasant, or interesting. Really doesn't sound all that fabulous, honestly, but it doesn't sound that bad either. So if we go back and look at the origin of the word good, so etymology, which is not to be confused with entomology, which is the study of insects, tells us that it comes from the Old English. And when used to describe professionals, it means skilled or expert. So it's a little different, right, from what we are used to nowadays in terms of putting it. So we've got the Old English, and then we've got the current use, and we can see that this change happened over just a bit under 1,000 years. So one little Norman invasion, and suddenly the word just does not have the same value that it did before that. And if we look at the synonyms, like these have also kind of worked out to an extent that you look at it and you go, how did good actually become a little bit of a bad word? And like the synonyms are things that we would, not necessarily use to describe a good friend, right? Logical, I mean, that's okay, I guess, for if you're a Vulcan. Reasonable, valid, solid. Solid's the best one we got there. And I think often we use the word solid when we don't know what else to say about someone. So how did we where did this problem start? And so how did we get to the point where we look at the word good and we're like, yeah, okay. And so I think we have to kind of go way back. And so I think the problem starts in preschool. And it's all about grade inflation. I don't really think it starts in preschool, but honestly, it's, aren't they so ridiculously cute? Those are my two kids at this front there of the procession, and ready to begin their big lives. But I remember shocked by the fact that there was a procession and they had a cap and a gown and they got a diploma. Was it a real surprise that they made it through to age 5, and got through preschool? But we start with that. And so we have this expectation of accolades for every single step of our lives from the age of 3 or 4. So then there's actual real data when you get to high school in terms of grade inflation. And what we see here is from the ACT. And for those of you who have not gone through this with children or are not from this country, it's a standardized exam which many children take as they're applying for colleges. And so what we see here is that group actually looked at the percentage of children who received A's in school. And so this is I think it's self-reported, but regardless, it's something that you give as you apply to do this exam. And you can see over the years how that percentage of getting an A is increasing through every single discipline. So you're like, well, okay, maybe and this is looking up to 2022. My kids graduated in 2022, and so I do think they might be much smarter than people 20 years ago, right? There's a high likelihood of that. But not so much. Their scores on the standardized tests did not improve. So this is just the scores that they are getting in high school that have slowly been increasing to a point where you wonder how valuable is that A anymore when everybody is getting it. And so those of you sitting here going, well, that was in the last 10 years. That's not when I went to school. It didn't happen. In college level, this grade inflation has been going on since the 1960s. It is worst in some of the Ivy Leagues, where it's if you're at Harvard, you deserve an A. And they have a very high percentage of people who get A's in every single course. And you would think that just the rigor of getting into that school and the name of that school should be enough to not have to do this grade inflation once you're actually there. So we're talking every level so far, right? where we've been used to getting a lot of really positive feedback and being told that you are the best and not just that you are good. So then we get into medical school, right? Worked hard, you actually get into medical school. And so in medical school, this has been, this is one of the things that I think drove me nuts the most when I was involved in medical school clerkship. And there was always a push in terms of giving the student the better grade if they asked for it. And I would often have to answer to the dean or the associate dean when we said, no, you know, they failed the shelf exam, they did really bad on the OSCE, I really don't think we should pass this person. Or you know, or the student who came and said, well, I think I deserve honors. And you're like, why do you deserve honors? And well, I showed up. And I'm being a little facetious here. There was always more than just the I showed up, but there was a push within administration in terms of like kind of doing what the student wanted to some extent. And when we look at this problem here, we see that unfortunately surgery also gives a lot of honors. We can't just blame all of the other folks about this. And when you look at, again, the same problem with higher ranked schools. So higher ranked medical schools give a lot more honors than lower ranked, for whatever that's worth, medical schools here as well. And then again, this is looking at the clerkship grades, and you can see the variability in trends here. And this is the amount of increase in the folks who are getting honors. And over the last few years, this problem continues. It has not abated by any means. So then a couple of people said, well, why don't we go to standardized letters? And maybe this will be more meaningful. So orthopedic surgeons, right, who we all know are the smartest in medical school, and they're the smartest out there in the world. They've managed to get the best billing rates and stuff. So they came up with the standardized letter format, which many of you who have dealt with students and residents and stuff have seen before. So has this worked? Well, maybe not so much. So as the title of this publication may suggest, it hasn't worked well, or that orthopedic surgeons aren't really as good at math as we thought that they were. These authors also noted that over 50% of those that were marked as candidates as being in the top third. Yet again, the math does not make sense. And so even up to this level, right, the accolades are going on, the being the best within your group continues, and this feedback is still the same. And then the real world begins. And the roller coaster that is residency, and in postgraduate training, it can really be ups and downs for many people. The feedback is sometimes non-existent to complimentary to harshly critical, or from one day to the next. And I know that the American Board of Surgery is working really hard to try to improve this and get us, and the whole EPA project, everything else is trying to get us away from this to better anchors, to being able to get better feedback, and not just walk out of a case and go, yeah, that was good, you did good, and then off you go. I think we still have a ways to go, though. But we have a cadre of people here who expect perfection from themselves as well. That's how they got here. And they've been receiving this external validation, but now they are in residency and they're finding it harder to reach these targets. And what this has led to is imposter syndrome, even in residence. So it's a paper where one of our co-authors, you probably recognize many of the authors, but one of them is sitting out here, one of our leaders in hernia. And you can see that with the drastic change in the external validation, we see what was already existing in medical students and college students for that matter being potentially increased. And when we're talking about 3/4 of our residents who think of themselves as being imposters, I think that's giving us an idea of how this is just slowly evolving. And if you ask yourself, well, you know, what really makes up imposter syndrome? These are some of the big areas in terms of kind of the questions that people ask themselves. I'd like to point out to you that the luck one, even our Nihas Wants lecturer talked about luck, right? So somebody who is so well established still looks at part of his career as being luck. And we can say that perhaps this is just, there's a little bit of humility and that's a good thing. But it's that point at where that humility gets to an extent where it is preventing you from moving forward and from being able to accept the fact that you deserve to be where you are. If there is nobody out there who recognizes any of this in yourself, that's fabulous. You've had people around you who've really built you up to have the confidence, or you're a narcissist, I'm not quite sure. But it's good. So then you survive training, residency, fellowship, whatever else, and you go out there into practice. And all these other things come, right? So much more that you were kind of prepared for, but maybe not really. And then so many other things that Yuri mentioned, right? You start dealing with complications. I mean, you were already, but there is a difference. There's a difference when they're your complications. You start seeing recurrences. And again, each one of those affects you personally. And we know that they happen, right? We know at a national level that the recurrence rate, especially from what we do in terms of hernias, it's a blow. It's really tough. And so these are all building upon themselves. And in terms of where you came out here and you said, my goal is to deliver high quality patient care. And then you've got like all these external forces that are like, that's great. But your op note was not signed within like 13.5 hours. We're gonna like start, cutting RVUs for you and everything else. And you're like, I'm just trying to keep up. And so here we find that the imposter syndrome that was already there continues. So almost a quarter of physicians have imposter syndrome. And as much as we do see that there is some variations within gender, age, and specialties, this really is the great equalizer. It hits all specialties. It hits all age groups even. So this does not completely go away as you get older. And you're coming from high school where getting an A meant getting somewhere between 90 and 100%, right? I think that's what an A still is. And this is what we want to see in terms of our patient outcomes. And even though we might be seeing this, I think many of us focus on the other part, the smaller percentage of patients who are not doing exactly as well as you're hoping that they're going to do. And especially with the long-term follow-up of our complex hernia patients, we don't necessarily see that A that we were used to seeing all the time. And this is where you need to step back and look at that journey of how did I get where I got? I think this is really hard. I mean, you got into medical school. That's not a super high acceptance rate at all. And I'm sorry, these are numbers from the US. I'm sure that they may well be even tougher than this in other countries. And I don't have those numbers. Getting into general surgery, it was kind of a flip of a coin whether you were gonna make it there or not. And the probability of getting to where you are, right? And so this is, I think, to quote a famous portion of Barbie, is the you are enough. And so what does that mean, right? So does this statement make people a little nervous? It makes me a little nervous to say, hey, maybe we should just accept that and I'll walk around and go on, I am enough. And I think the reason it makes us nervous is that gonna lead to complacency? And right, complacency is absolutely not a slippery slope that we want to go down. And I'd propose that it shouldn't. I think this is a starting point. To start with, I am enough, leads you to a starting point to be able to then take the next steps to see where you can go. And so you have enough confidence to actually say, hey, I'm ready to do something else, and not be concerned that everybody is now going to recognize that you're that imposter that only you knew about until then. So you can be more. And so you can be Barbie. And this video may resemble some of our current board members, but there's definitely a lot of other innovators and experts who are in this room, as well as part of our society, as well as part of other societies, and maybe not even part of societies, um, who could definitely be included here. So then what's next, right? So that's where the AHS is here to support you. And we've got so many things that are available, and a lot of them have been focused on by Flavio already, but if I can just take an opportunity to really talk about some of them. So we've got the AHS Playground and the Hernia Olympics, and so this is a place really to get people excited and bring, fun into work, into training, into being part of the society and competition, because who does not love some competition? I mean, that's, well, all of us. The Skills Lab, which, has been going on now for several years. It's one of our most popular events. It gets filled up within days of being advertised. And you'll often hear a lot of really positive comments, positive long-term comments, because this is mentorship. We're essentially setting up mentorship that I think for many of us, mentorship is a lifelong need, and it's something that keeps us being very, very moving forward in terms of our careers as well as our personal lives. So that lab is on Sunday, sorry. And we are talking about being able to expand that lab in the future so that it's not just once a year, and so that we will find more opportunities to have Skills Lab, hopefully trying to attach it to some other travel that you may have, and provide more opportunities to people. The AHS WISE Library, this was actually created, I believe it was during COVID, when we all had maybe a little bit more time to be editing our videos and putting them up there. It's already very robust with expert narrated videos going step by step through procedures, and really taking the time that sometimes that you can't get when you're going to a meeting and watching a video. And of course, it's to access it, become a member if you're not one already. And so the AHS WISE Library, which is already there, is being updated. Additional videos are being added. This week, focusing on recording some patient-focused videos in terms of, so you can send to your patients in terms of, what should I be asking my surgeon? What should I be expecting from hernia surgery and such? And then we have the Visiting Observership, which is now in its second year, and 4 individuals, again, from different countries who come and spend a very immersive experience. We've had great feedback from our fellows from last year, and are expecting the same as we're going forward. I've seen at least one of them from last year who is here and is going to be presenting as well. So it's just the working all together to elevate everybody. We sent out a climate survey last year to our members, and we've been trying to gather out of that the main areas where we can improve, where we can work on. It's always a work in progress, right? In terms of increasing diversity, increasing inclusion. I think that's also a place where we can never get complacent. And so we're taking small things and moving forward with the leadership of our DEI committee. We have 3 research grants that we've been awarding every year, and this year come to the business meeting, and you'll hear who got them on Saturday. We have a new and improved website that our communications committee has put together, and we've heard already a little bit from Yuri about the focus practice designation, but this is a work in progress, and so more information coming. I think the group is going about it in a very methodic fashion, which is the right way to do this, to make sure that it is value added for our members, our surgeons, and of course our patients as well. And then the hernia ab wall fellowship designation, we're in the pilot year of that and getting some exciting numbers, if you will, in terms of how that's moving along. It's a joint fellowship with SAGES, and I think that that's also exciting for the small groups where we have training programs that can offer this. And so this is just a few of the things that our committees have achieved and that we're working on currently. And they're all here to design and here to support our members so that you can take it up to the next step in terms of your personal and professional development. So finally, I want to take an opportunity to thank many, many people. Want to thank the board that has worked so hard, been so supportive, and has been really mentoring the committees that our board members have been kind of ex officio members of in terms of moving all these projects forward. Want to thank Flavio for putting up with me whenever he had the final version of the program, and we went back to the drawing board a little bit. And then, of course, the entire program committee for putting together what is an amazing program. You will not be disappointed. None of this, of course, could we do without our management organization, Jill, Margie, and everybody else with LP. You keep us going, you keep us honest, and you keep the wheels turning. Otherwise, we would be definitely at a standstill. My family, first of all, got my son to put that video together last night. So any extraneous things on Conrad's head were not from me, but I think they were brilliant. And for being here and for putting up with me and my procrastination as well. So to our audience here, thank you all for coming to this meeting. And just, this is a society of hernia surgeons and friends. If you aren't a member, join. Okay, you want to be part of this club. And if you are a member, consider joining a committee. You don't want this to be a bunch of old people who are part of the board anymore, right? And we need to see you, we need to see that diversity. I'm not suggesting everybody on the board's old, it's just I'm talking about myself before everybody else starts getting upset about it. And I'm gonna kind of wrap up here. So thank you all very much.
Yeah, so good start. Besides our technical issues in the beginning, we are wrapping up a few minutes before schedule, and I will invite you to go to the exhibitions right now to get a break. We have some interesting breakfast and lunch sessions with them, so suggest you to pick your choices and help us to continue this partnership with the industry to be able to continue to do what we do in American society. Thank you.